Hi, this is John Sykes. I first met Phil in Ireland when I was doing a solo single. He very kindly said he'd do this single with me. We got together with a producer called Chris Tangaridis, and that was the first time we met each other, and he quite liked me, and I was really excited to meet him, because he was, prior to this, when I used to just play in club bands and things, all I used to do was play Thin Lizzy tunes. And so it was a real buzz for me to see Phil. I remember when I first met him, it was really exciting to see him, and even just to get in a car with him and watch people's expressions on their faces as we drove past and they'd see it was Phil was just unbelievable. So shortly after that, he asked me if I'd like to take the place of Snowy and Thin Lizzy, which was just a dream come true for me. So naturally I just took the gig straight away, and we'd flown back from Dublin back to London, and it was only a matter of 3 days or something, and we was in the studio starting the Thunder and Lightning album. Well, I didn't know any of the tracks. I just walked into this big studio. It was the first time I've been in a studio like that. It was a great studio, Eel Pie Studio, Pete Townsend owns it. And I walked in, I was overwhelmed by everything. And so what we did was, everyone was just standing in the actual studio part where the band, there was Brian up on a drum riser, and we was just standing around. Scott was sitting down, and I was sitting down. Phil was there, and he just said to me, this was the first time I hadn't even played with a band before this, and he'd already asked me if I wanted to join, just from the work we did with the single. And so he said to me, just play a riff, any riff you like. And I just started playing a riff, and he said, yeah, we used that bit, and then we just started jamming around for about an hour or something, you know. And an hour later we had Cold Sweat, which turned out to be the single off the album, you know, which was doing quite well. He was a genius in the studio. If Phil would do things in the studio which you'd listen to, you know, he'd lay one track of vocal things down and you'd think, what's he doing? That's never going to work, you know. And then he'd put another 2 or 3 parts to it, and it'd just be unbelievable, the thing that he'd thought up, because you just wouldn't think of it. He'd just come out with it, and that would be that. You could get on a stage with Phil, and it wouldn't matter if half the equipment went down, or if you made the worst mistake in the world. Phil would just look round and laugh at you, and as if it was nothing. He'd just, never, you know, it's no pressure. I never felt pressure getting on a stage with Phil, because you knew as soon as Phil walked on a stage, I mean, he was the best in the business. As soon as Phil walked onto a stage with Lizzy, he'd have the audience eating out the palm of his hand. There'd be no problem then. There was never any, I mean, Phil was the main thing. I mean, without Phil, Thin Lizzy's nothing. You know, it's that Phil was Thin Lizzy. I mean, Phil always come across as a hard-living, hard-going rock and roller, but Phil was really a romantic at heart as well, wasn't he? I mean, some of the lyrics he'd write were just... I mean, the song Still in Love With You, that was one of my favourite songs to play, and it always touched me, you know, the way he'd sing it and everything, because he put so much emotion into it. So as much of the side of him that would be really hard and rocky and heavy-going and big, tough Phil, he had this soft side, you know, which was unbelievable. I'd say he was an unbelievable talent, an unbelievable friend, and I think he was just a true gentleman and dedicated beyond belief to the work he did. He was the ultimate rock and roll star. I mean, people say Elvis was the king of rock and roll. Phil was the king of rock and roll, for sure.